Good afternoon, students. Today we have to discuss regarding the classifications of the solids. Last class we discussed regarding the two types of the solids, that is crystalline solids and amorphous solids. Today we have to discuss regarding the classification of the crystalline solids. As last class I told you that the true solid is our crystalline solid and amorphous solid is a false solids. It is not a true solids. That's why most of the solids that we have found in nature primarily our crystalline solids, and these crystalline solids are classified into four categories. Okay, so crystalline solids are classified into classification of crystalline solids. Crystalline solids has been classified into four different categories, and these are we can see first is molecular solids, second is ionic solid, third is covalent solid, fourth is metallic solids. So let us look here, sir. Crystalline solids has been classified into four different categories: molecular solids, ionic solids, covalent solids, metallic solids. These four type of the solids are actually consist of different constituent units. Okay, let us say in case of the molecular solids, the constituent units are used molecules. Okay, and whereas in case of the ionic solid, constituent units are ions, covalent solids, constituent units are atoms, and metallic solids, the constituent units are metals. Okay, so all these different type of the solids have difference with respect to their constituent units, as well as they are also different physical properties, and they have also the different type of molecular force of attraction between the solids. Okay, so let us look here. So first of all we have to come regarding the molecular solids. See, in these molecular solids the constituent units are molecules. For example, this may be in some cases may be atoms also. For example, in case of noble gases, just like neon, argon. Okay, these are the molecular solids. Just like this, the molecular solids also have once again two types. That is, it has also two types. We can say one is a polar molecular solids and another is non-polar molecular solids. Okay, this polar molecular solids and non-polar molecular solids. So let us look here, sir. In case of the polar molecular solids, these the units, constituent units, they have the positive and negative charge. For example, NH3, HCl, sulfur dioxide, these are belongs to the polar molecular solids. Just like that, non-polar molecular solids, they don't carry any charges, just like O2, H2, Cl2, just like it is. Okay. So all these molecular solids have found to be very soft. Their characters we can define. Characters are they are soft and they have the low melting and boiling points. They have low heats of the fusions and they do not conduct the currents or electricity. So these are all the properties of the or characteristics of the molecular solids. Okay, and here these constant particles or the units, they are actually joined by with the help of a van der Waals force or a hydrogen bond. They are formed by formed by van der Waals force linkage. Van der Waals force. Since this force is statically is a weak force, hence these solids are found to be has to show low melting and boiling point, low heats of the fusions, okay, like this. So for some examples of this molecular solids are solid carbon dioxide, naphthalenes, just like this, okay. So this is one of the category of first category of our crystalline solids. Now let us we have to go to the second type of our solids, that we can say yourself ionic solids. Second category of solids are ionic solids. See, in case of this ionic solids, the constituent units are your ions, or the smallest units are, we can say, the ions, and these ions are positively charged and negatively charged, or we can say the cations is there as well as anions is there. So these cations and anions both are combining to form the ionic solids. Because here the ions are oppositely charged, positive and negative charge, hence they are formed by strong electrostatic force of attraction. These are formed, the compound is formed by strong electrostatic force, of attraction, okay, or we can say this is formed by electrovalent bond or your ionic bonds, okay. Since these are the oppositely charged ions, so they have very strong force. Due to the strong force, they possesses high melting point and boiling point, okay, and they are also very hard in nature, and these compounds, ionic compounds, generally, because they are held by strong force, so in the solid state these compounds do not carry the currents in solid state, but whenever they are present in the molten state or your liquid state, there is a formation of the ions. Due to formation of the ions, electron is found to be flowing. As a result, current is also found to be carried by these substances, okay. So these substances can carry the current in their molten states or aqueous solution states. Some examples of this compound, just we can say NaCl, KCl, MgCl2, just like this. These compounds shows the properties or nature of the ionic compounds. Next category of the solid that we have to come regarding the third category, that is, we can say, covalent solids. Category of the solids we have to come regarding the covalent solids. So look here, the covalent solids are these are the formed by atoms also, and they are generally formed by non-metals, okay. And these covalent solids are also found to be very hard. These solids are also very hard. These solids are hard, and they have also high melting and boiling points. High melting and point as well as the boiling points, okay. These solids are formed by non-metals. For examples, examples of graphite and diamond, we can take the formation of covalent solids, and these solids are formed with the help of a covalent bonds, okay. And they have also high melting boiling point, high density. These compounds are also don't carry the currents, okay, but graphite will carry the currents in exceptional cases due to presence of its free layer, where the electron can flow from one layer to other layers. In case of diamond and graphite, diamond is max or sp2 hybridization, whereas diamond is formed sp3 hybridations, okay. Due to formation of sp2 hybridization, one electron of carbon is found to be free one electron of carbon is free. Whereas in sp3 hybridization, all electrons are involved in bonding. All electrons are involved in bonding. So due to these reasons, in case of our graphite, it is possible to carry the currents with the help of hexagonal layers present in each case. One electron can flow from one layer to other layers. But in case of the diamond, what is due to its sp3 hybridization, formation of the tetrahedral structure? Just look here, so I am just explaining the structure. In case of the graphite, you look here, sir. In case of the graphite, the compound makes like the structures. See, this is the structure formed by the graphite. Okay, so there is a different layers of the graphite, and they are so these are the hexagonal structure of graphite, hexagonal structure. So look here, sir, it is making, in all cases they are making sp2 hybridations. So the electron is able to flow through these layers. Okay. So, but in case of the diamond, whenever it comes, this diamond carbon makes the tetrahedral with all the carbon atoms. 4 bonds are present in all sides. Due to this, here there is in case of the diamond, there is no free electrons, hence the current cannot flow through it. But in case of the graphite, because it is making sp2 hybridization, that's why one electron is free and that is moves from one layer to other layers. Okay. So in covalent solids, we see these are the constituent elements. Constituent substance are your atoms. They have also high melting point and boiling points. These solids are also found to be very harsh. Okay. So these are all the properties that is to be found to be possessed by covalent solids. Okay. Now let us we have to go regarding the fourth category of solids, that is metallic solids. In case of the metallic solids, here the constituents are metal atoms, and these metal atoms are nothing only, that is what we say the kernels, positively charged kernels. These are also, you can say, positively charged kernels, and these kernels surrounded by a cloud of electrons, or what we say, these are the cloud of electrons, or we can say sea of electrons, positive charges, or you can, in case of the metallic solids, positive ions are surrounded by a kernel, surrounded by a sea of electrons. So just like ionic solids, where there is a positive charge and negative charge by the cations and anions, but in case of the metallic solids, what will happen, sir? Here there is a positive charge is formed by the metal atoms, those are known as the kernels, and negative charge are formed by what is or electrons. So there is a positive charge is surrounded by a sea of or galaxy of negative charged electrons. So whenever the current is found to be passed, it is found to be easier to flow due to presence of sea of electrons that can move from one kernel to another kernel through this sea of the electrons. Let us look here. So for example, you could take the iron Fe. So if you take the Fe, this iron will give us Fe2 plus 2 electrons. Similarly, if there is more presence of Fe atoms, they will give Fe plus 2 electron. Fe gives Fe2 plus 2 electrons. So let us look here. So there is a just a group of atoms. If you take, then it gives the charged ions plus electron. Charged ions plus electrons. So let us look here. So in this case, there is a formation of 2 electrons. Okay, and there is also positive charge. So there is a presence of the electrons electrons and the presence of the positive charges. Okay. So these electrons, they will just form like a cloud or sea, or sea of electrons. Just you see, just you can see there is a sea of electrons. Here also you can look here, sir. There is, it is also sea of electrons, and the electron is found to be flowing, and this electron is found to be surrounded by these positive charges. So due to the moving of the electrons around the positive charge, there is found to be the current is to be produced by the metal atoms. And these metal atoms present in the metallic solids also shows very strong strength or strong in natures, and they have also high melting points, high boiling points, and they have the high rates of fusion also. Similarly, these metal atoms also shows the properties of malleability and ductility, malleability and ductility natures. Okay, by virtue of which they can be drawn into thin sheets, they can be drawn into wires, just like this. Okay, and these metal atoms also produces the sound when we have to strike on some other substances. Similarly, these metallic solids shows the nature of luster, so they will show the metallic luster natures. So these are all the properties of metallic solids. So now we have to see there are four classes of crystalline solids. So let us look. We have to compare all these solids with respect to their properties and natures. So let us look here, sir. We have to compare between these four different type of the crystalline solids. So let us look here, sir. First of all, we have to see molecular solids, and second is our ionic solids, and third is our we can say covalent solids, and fourth is our metallic solids. So let us say we have to count the constituents. Constituents means or units by which they are formed. So let us look here. So in case of the molecular solid, the constituent units are in molecules. These are, you can say, the molecules. In case of the ionic solid, constituent units are the ions. And in case of covalent solids, that is also, you can say, the atoms. And metallic solids, also you can say the constituent units are atoms, metal atoms. So let us, whenever we have to come regarding the force of attractions that holds. So in case of the molecular solids, we see the force of attraction is covalent bond, van der Waals force, or hydrogen bond, that is a weak bond. Van der Waals force of attraction, force of attraction. In case of molecular solids, it is a van der Waals force of attraction. And in case of the ionic solids, this is ionic force that is formed. And in case of the covalent solids, that is covalent bond is formed. And in case of the metallic solids, metallic bond is formed. So this is the nature of the force that is to be developed by molecular solids, ionic solid, covalent solids, and metallic solids. Whenever we will come to the melting point and the boiling points, these are, in case of the molecular solid, that we can say low, and this is in case of our ionic solid, this is high. This is also, you can say, high. This is also found to be high. And if you compare regarding the conductivity of substances conductivity. There is no conductivity and it carries current in molten state, carries in molten state. And in case of the covalent solid, it does not carry the current, no carries. Exception in case of your graphite, exception is graphite where it is can be carried. And in case of the metallic, it also carry the current. If you come example regarding some examples of the compounds, then the ionic solid we can say that is molecule solid, solid carbon dioxide, naphthalene. And in case of ionic solid, that is your NaCl, HCl. And in case of covalent solid, diamond and graphite. And in case of the metallic solid, it is iron, copper, etc. So let us look here. So these are the different type of the crystalline solids and their properties. First of all, the constituent units are in molecular solids are molecules, ionic solid ions, covalent solids are atoms, and metallic solids also metal atoms. And regarding the force of attraction, these have the strong force of attraction, van der Waals force of attraction, but it is the ionic force or ionic bond is formed, and here covalent bond is formed, and metal bond is formed. Whenever we come to the melting and boiling properties of these compounds, they are found to be low and they are high. They are found also very high. They are also found to be very high. And if you come regarding the conductivity, they don't carry any current. But these compound ionic solid, they will carry the current in the molten state or aqueous states. And covalent solid, they do not carry the currents, except in cases of graphite, which carries the currents. And metallic solids, they also carry the current due to the cloud of electrons that moves on the kernel of the electrons, kernel or positive charge of the metal atoms. Some examples of molecular solids are carbon dioxide, naphthalene, and ionic solids, sodium potassium chlorides, diamond and graphite for covalent solids, and iron, copper, zinc, just like that, are belonging to our metallic solids. Okay. So the classification of the crystalline solids and their properties and natures. Now let us look here. So we will discuss regarding the unit cells. Okay. So what is the mean by the unit cells? If the name indicate unit means a specific measurement of one, that we can say unit. Okay. So unit cells are, we can say, the smallest repeating units throughout by which the solid substance is found to be formed. Let us give one example. Let us we are making a house. Then what happens? We are taking all the commodities, just like sand, cement, bricks, all these things. But out of all these things, the one parameters that is to make the house is complete, make the walls complete, that is the bricks. So we can say brick is the simplest unit that extends throughout the walls. As a result, the complete structure of the house is found to be formed. Like that, in case of a solids, any kind of solids, it has to be formed by continuous arrangement of extending of the smallest unit. And this smallest unit, that we can say the unit cell. So unit cell are the smallest unit or the parameters which extend throughout the whole solids to get the complete structure of the solids. So it is, we can say, the smallest repeating unit that can be extends throughout the whole solids. And this unit cells has to be characterized just like that. You see, it has just like a shape. We can define here the unit cell has length and breadth and height, as well as it makes also three angles. Just you see, let us A, B, C, alpha, beta, gamma. So see, this is a unit cell. This unit cell just have the three lengths. It is the three lengths A, B, C, and three angle alpha, beta, gamma. Okay. So a unit cell is characterized by 6 parameters. Characterized by 6 parameters. Out of this, what you say, the three lengths is there. Three lengths, that is lengths alpha, beta, gamma, and three angles, that is three lengths. Sorry, A, B, C, and three angles, that is alpha, beta, gamma. So there are 6 parameters in which a unit cell can be represented. Okay. In a particular solids, it has the 3 parameters, lengths and that is angles. With respect to lengths and angles, these unit cells are characterized into different categories. So in a particular type of solids, the angles are found to be remain same. Just we can say alpha, beta, gamma. This alpha angle that is formed between two lengths A and B, and beta angle is formed between B and C. Gamma angle is found to be formed C and A. And for a particular type of the solids, what are the angles are formed? They are found to be remain same in everywhere. So remaining same, the bond angles in everywhere. That is, we can say constancy of interfacial angles. So this is a rule that is known as law of constancy of interfacial angle. That means for a particular solid, what are the angles has to be created, alpha, beta, gamma, they are found to be remain same in every ways. So this type of maintaining sameness of the angles, you can say constancy of interfacial angles. Now you see these unit cells are again categorized into 2 types. Unit cells are 2 types based upon their structures. Unit cells are 2 types. These are, one is primitive or simple unit cell, and another is non-primitive unit cell. So now let us look here. So the unit cells are categorized in 2 types. One is a primitive unit cell and another is a non-primitive unit cell. In case of the primitive unit cells or simple unit cells, what will happen, sir? In this case, the unit cell is very simple in nature, and non-primitive, that means here the points are found to be present at the kernels only, and here the non-primitive, the points are present in the kernels as well as some other places. So this non-primitive unit cell are once again categorized into 3 types. That is face-centered unit cell, and second is body-centered unit cell, and third is end-centered unit cell. So unit cells are, we can basically classify into 2 types. That is primitive or simple unit cell, non-primitive cells, and these non-primitive cells once again classified into 3 categories: face-centered unit cell, body-centered unit cell, and end-centered unit cell. So let us look here. We have to discuss one by one type of the unit cells. First of all, we have to come simple unit cell. In case of the simple unit cell, or we can say that is primitive, also you can say primitive unit cells. Unit cell. What happens here? The atoms are present at the corners of a cube. Corners of a unit cell. Let us look here. So these are the corners of a unit cell. Let us look here. This is a simple unit cells. In the simple unit cells, you can see there are the atoms are present at each corner. There are 8 corners of the cubes, and in each corners there is one atoms present in the simple unit cells. And in case of the non-primitive, first of all you have to come face-centered unit cell. Face-centered unit cells. In these unit cells, you can imagine there are points are present at each corners of the unit cell. Each corner of the unit cells, that is 8 corners, and beside the 8 corners there is face. There are how many faces in this cube? We can see there is 6 faces, front, back, and the 4 sides. So we can say there are 6 points at the 6 sides, 4 sides and top and bottom. So that is, you can say, face-centered unit cell. Next, body-centered unit cell. In case of the body-centered unit cell, you can see, look here, sir. Just like this body-centered unit cells, the unit cells are present at the corners as well as at the center of the body. Let us look here, sir. Here you can see there is in each corner there is a unit cell is there, and beside the corner we can see center, body center. There is also one. So that is what we say the body-centered unit cell. Body-centered unit cell. So we see here simple cubic unit cell, face-centered unit cell, and body-centered unit cell. Another unit cell, that is what we say, what you can say, that is end-centered. Look here, sir. In end-centered unit cells, there are also the atoms at the end position. Look here, sir. There are 8 points at the 8 corners, and beside this, there is also 2 faces. Any 2 faces. Let us say top and bottom, or left or right. Any 2 opposite faces, and which their centers, they are found to be present. That is, you can say face-centered. That is end-centered. End-centered unit cell. End-centered unit cell. So let us look here, sir. What we have to see here, our unit cells are mainly 2 categories: simple unit cells, that is primitive unit cell, and non-primitive unit cell. In case of simple unit cells or primitive, there are 8 points and 8 corners of the cubes. But in case of the non-primitive unit cells, there are present at the corners as well as centers of the unit cells. So in case of the non-primitive unit cells, it is once again 3 types: face-centered unit cells, body-centered unit cells, and our end-centered unit cells. So now let us use to calculate what is the number of atoms present in one unit cells. So now let us use to calculate the number of atoms present. Number of atoms present in each unit cell. Number of atoms present in each unit cell. Let us you have to come regarding, first of all you have to come simple cubic unit cells or primitive unit cells. So let us look here, sir. If we have to discuss regarding simple cubic unit cells, let us look here. There are how many points? There are 8 points. So let us need to come first of all, let us come to one particular point. Just you imagine, because in beginning I say it is a imagination chapters. Just you have to take a one big circle. So let us, this is a points or unit cell, or this is a spheres. Okay. So whenever you take a sphere, I have sphere. Just you can observe that in these spheres, half of the spheres, just once again I doing the same diagram explains. Let us look at this unit cells, and this unit cells, here is one sphere is present, one atom is present. Let us look here. So this atom is just like this. So out of this atom, just you can imagine what is the amount that is present inside our cell, that we have to discuss. So let us look here. So half of it is remains outside. So this half is not present inside our cell. Now we come to this one. Out of this one, you see already half has gone, rest remains. So out of this, only our portion will contains only this much. So it is again 4 halves, and out of this 4 half, only 1 half is present, 1/4 is present. If it is 1/4, then if we consider this total sphere, then the portion that is present inside this cube is belongs to 1/8. That means you can say the contribution made by this sphere is only 1/8 out of the total spheres. So we can see the contribution of a single point is 1/8. So in case of simple unit cell, contribution in a point is that is 1/8 of a sphere. 1/8 of a sphere. 1/8 of a sphere. Whenever you have to take, it is a total whole cube. In this cube there is total 8 places. 8 places. So whenever the 8 places is there, and if the contribution of one sphere is 1/8, then we can say the total contribution of the unit cell, total contribution of unit cell, we can say that is 8 into 1/8. 8 multiplication 1/8. So we can say 1. So in average, whenever we have to calculation what is the number of atoms present in this unit cells, then that is, we can say that is 1. So the number of atoms present in unit cell is 1. Okay, and it is what you say, the simple cubic unit cells or primitive unit cell, the number of atoms is 1. Like that, if you come face-centered unit cell, let us look here. So here you see there are 8 kernels. So because the 8 kernels is there, so from the kernels you have to get the contributions. 8 into 1/8, that is 1. And there are faces, there are 6 faces. And in these faces you can observe, so what is the face here present. The neighbor unit cell has also same faces. So one point is shared by 2. So each contribution is 1/2. If each contribution is 1/2, then there are 6 faces. So faces contribution will come 6 into 1/2, that is your 3. So now you see kernel contribution is 1 and face contribution is 3. So we can say the total will come your 4. So we can say that there is a 4 number of atoms in case of face-centered unit cells. Now will come body-centered unit cell. Now let us look at body-centered unit cells. What will happen, sir? There are also 8 kernels. So the contribution from kernels, that is the contribution is 8 into 1/8, that is 1. And contribution from the what you say center of the body, that is 1. So we can say from center it is 1. From center it is 1. So we can say 1. So the total number of atoms is 2. So in case of body-centered unit cell, the number of atoms is 2. Next you have to come end-centered unit cell. Just like this end-centered unit cell, Here you see in end center what will happen, sir? There are 8 corners. In 8 corners, 8 points is there, and there are only 2 faces to point is there. So if you compare regarding face centered unit cell, what will happen? There are 6 faces. 6 faces we have taken 6 points. But in case of end centered, you can take any 2 faces and center them. So that's why you can say end centered. And here if you also calculate, then from corner we will get same amount, that is 8 into 1 by 8, and from end center also you see from each one point it will the neighbor to the its neighbor one, so 1 point is cell by 2, so each contribution is half, so there are 2 points there, so their cell will come 2 and 2 half, so it is 1 and it is 1, that is also 2. So we can say in case of end centered unit cells, the number of atoms in a unit cell is 2. So now you see in case of the different kind of the unit cells, first of in simple unit cells, that is contribution is 1 by 1 number of atoms, and in face centered unit cell it is found to be the number of atoms is 4, and in body centered unit cell the number of atoms is found to be 2, and in end centered unit cell the number of atoms is found to be 2. Okay.